welcome. We are here for the convergence of sport and entertainment. Has everyone had fun at Rally? I know this is one of the last panels. Have y'all had fun?
Oh wait, I'm sorry, we didn't hear you. I'm so sorry.
Y'all have fun?
Do we have the itis? Is that what it is? Come on.
Well, I'd like to introduce myself first. My name is Lydia Davies. I am the founder of Osprey, which is a community for women in sports and entertainment. So we have athletes, entertainers, executive females in sport and entertainment, and female college athletes in the community. We cross-brand, collaborate, network, connect, and elevate our members. So lucky for me today, I have 3 of our wonderful members here on this panel. So I'm just going to introduce them to you. They are all absolutely incredible women. And I may be biased, but I think I have the most fun group out of the whole of Rally. Yeah, sorry.
No doubt.
Sorry if you had a panel. So let's start with Zora. Zora is a 6-time Emmy Award-winning journalist on the end there. 6 times, I said, not 1, not 2, but 6. She is an NBC sports reporter and an Olympic broadcaster. You may have seen her on NBC Sports at the Olympics. And yes, she was the one talking to the GOAT in Paris. And she does play-by-play for football and basketball. So welcome, Zora.
Yeah.
Next to her, we have Dr. Jen Welter, the first female NFL coach ever. So we call her the Disruptor, and she really does go by that name, and it really suits her well. She was a professional footballer herself. She's an author. She's a speaker. And what's really important about her is that she's a warrior of a player's mindset instead of just stats and data. She really cares about the player and youth sports. She has a company called Gridiron Girls where she coaches young girls how to play football and feel empowered. So welcome, Jen.
Yeah.
Woo. And then last but not least, next to me, we have Christy Jenkins all the way from Australia. She is a triple-time athlete, top 10 in the world at trampoline, beach volleyball, and CrossFit. I mean, she was like, I'm not going to stop at 1, I'm going to try 2 and 3. She is now the co-founder of FC32, an ownership group in football focused on player development. So welcome, Christy. So what we've really noticed is that in the past few years, sports and entertainment has really merged more and become one. And when one takes off, the other takes off, and adding them together creates this like huge impact and incredible space. I have to say, one of my favorite things from the Olympics was Snoop Doggy, Dogg, jamming with the horses at the horse riding and going on the track. He was just so much fun, and that was such a great convergence of sport and entertainment. So I'm going to start with you, Zora. You just returned from the Olympics, where you were incredible, by the way. Thank you for giving us all those amazing play-by-plays and reports. Sport, entertainment, and art really converged together in Paris this year. Like, we saw so much incredible displays of that coming together. What was a pivotal or jaw-dropping, impactful moment for you in Paris this year where you thought, wow, like that has all come together and that's going to create a buzz and make a big impact?
Yeah, well, sports in itself is entertainment, right? I mean, without even talking about a convergence or without even being intentional, if you don't play it, you're watching it. And you're watching it because you think it's fun, because you're getting into it, because you're rooting for a certain team. Sports is entertainment, and you talk about the pinnacle of all of it coming together in Paris a couple weeks ago. First time that fans were back in a couple Olympics, and you're just seeing the best at what they do put on a show. Jordan Childs, who was a member of the USA gymnastics team, considers herself an entertainer. And she tries to, model herself after the energy that comes from entertainers like Beyonce, right? And she realizes that little girls and little boys are in that gym because they're entertained by what she does. Same thing, you talk about basketball. right? Entertainment in itself, yes, the sport, but the personalities as well, and they recognize that. So I think there were so many different moments. I got the opportunity to watch track as well. I'd never been to a track meet before, and it's a football stadium with 70,000 people, and the in-game entertainment crew finds a way to keep us all entertained. I mean, the race itself is less than 10 seconds, but you're there for 2 hours and you don't even realize it. So sports as a whole, just the game itself is entertainment, but it all comes together with the spectacle of it and the in-game atmosphere.
I love that. And just to follow up, like, is there something you noticed that another country may have done better than the U.S. when it came to, like, you know, creating an atmosphere and engaging the fans? Was there any specific country that stood out?
Well, you know, the French got to put on a show, and they understood the platform that they had with the Olympics being in their hometown. And I'm in a men's basketball game. It's the gold medal game, and it's France and Team USA going at it. And the French fans have a band in this, I mean, stuff that you would never see at an NBA game here in the States. They had a band, they have choreographed cheers. It reminded me of what we call a soccer, but a football game, right? The atmosphere there. So I was really impressed with the French and how they rallied behind their team. And I'm also wondering how all of them got tickets right behind the basket. They had no idea that France would be in the gold medal game, but somehow there was a bunch of locals right behind the basket. So Team USA had to really focus when they were shooting their free throws. So somebody had the inside scoop because everything was sold out, which was amazing.
That is amazing, and it was so fun. I'm sure everyone agrees it was so fun to watch this year. Thank you. So Jen, like, turning to a different thing, to football. You've been involved in football your entire life, obviously, and football is one of those sports that, obviously, like you said, all sports are entertainment, but football is one that's like an all-day family, traditional community experience. So it's like a celebration, right? Every time, every Sunday when the football's on. How do you feel that has like affected your life growing up, being a part of that football community? And what are some other sports that we could perhaps try and make more of that, like all day family tailgating, bringing the cousins and everyone together for meals and to watch, even for those that aren't interested in football. I mean, I was never a huge football watcher, but I like the entire display of it.
Mm. Well, so I think there's a couple of things there. One thing that we found in football in that we've done recently well in entertainment to get past is the helmet bias, right? So you found that athletes like in the NBA were getting bigger deals than football because you didn't get a chance to see the emotion and to see their faces. So new content created around what is going on beneath the helmet and underneath the pads. Like, these are superheroes out on the field. That's what they look like, right? Let's be honest. Like, with the pads and the helmet, they look like superheroes, but they're also superhuman. And so taking the helmet off in shows like quarterback and receiver have really allowed fans to fall in love with the players. And that's something, for me as a woman in there, I had that unique insight. And we've always looked at, because that's how fandom happens, is through relationship, okay? Like, for me, I can turn on a Pee-wee football game and I will start coaching them from my couch, okay? Hey, listen, you got to keep outside contain. What are you doing? You came in too fast. Because I love the game in its purest form. However, if you didn't get to play, the way people come in is through the love of a person, i.e., I'm not a basketball person. Self-selected out very early. My top height is 5'2", okay? So basketball was not a natural fit. But here, I want to see Caitlin Clark because I love her journey. And I love the rivalry between her and Angel Reese. And I want to see that play out in real time. And one of the reasons why sports drive culture is because the battles that we have, maybe as being the one woman in, or the first to do this in like a boardroom or a corporation, plays out in private. These real humans live those battles in public, and we get to grow with them, we get to cheer with them, we get to cry with them, we get to really emotionally invest, right? So sports are shifting the way they intersect by allowing us to love the humans in that journey, right? So that's where we're really seeing the convergence of sports and entertainment. In terms of sports and what I think really is going to be the next big sport to hit the US is one that is more global and has been slow in the US, and that's rugby. I played rugby in college, and thankfully that's why this face survived 15 years of tackle football, because I learned how to do it the right way. I can tackle you and never mess up my makeup because it is cheek to cheek and we keep it on top, right? So it is cheek to cheek and I can look this fabulous after I take you to the ground. But we saw it play out in the Olympics, right? We saw Ilona Mayer really just, because she's so human and because she made her struggle something that we as women in our bodies, like, we love-hate relationship with them, especially as athletes and especially in body image, fell in love with her journey. And rugby is really that culture. We used to jokingly say our drinking team had a rugby problem because there were kegs on the sidelines and people would like really go and they would watch rugby all day, right? Like, you would play, I think, B-side, A-side, C-side. So there was like a warm-up game, there was your premier game, and then the C-side game, we were all cheering and very rowdy and you know, mildly intoxicated. But that culture is something that if you haven't experienced, like, I can go anywhere in the world and know somebody says they played rugby, I'm like, oh, you're my kind of crazy. And that'll be, I think, the next big sport here in the US. And we will see women's elite rugby as a professional league launching next year in the US, and I'm really excited for it.
I love that. And if you haven't seen Ilona's Sports Illustrated cover yet, go online and look, because it's hot.
I love her, and she plays in lipstick, so she also can tackle you and not even mess up her lipstick.
Zora, Christy, do you want to add to that, like, what you think the next big, like, entertainment, family, community sport will be?
I mean, I'm out there buying soccer teams, so I got to make a vote for the other kind of football.
Yeah, we call that soccer here.
Yeah. You don't even use your feet in your sport.
I know, it makes no sense. There's no sense behind why we call it football, but we do, and it's American football, and we're here.
What about you, Zora?
I mean, I'm all hoops every day, and you know, basketball is not necessarily a full day event, but it can become that if we make the games matter more, right? I think that's one of the conversations specifically within the NBA. They have an 82-game season, and so people say, oh, the season doesn't start till December, but now you've got cup games in the middle of the season, and so if you know, towards the end of it, I think it could matter more. What I wanted to touch on, though, was the human element of athletes, right? Because, you know, I can't play rugby. We talked about Simone Biles. I can't even begin to do what she does, but I can relate to having a battle or struggle or trying to overcome something or having a dream so big that you don't even know where to start. And that's where we, you know, start to root for various athletes. And so I think that's so important for fans to realize that these are humans under the jersey, under the helmet, that had a dream at one point, just like we all do.
Yeah, that's so true. It's important to think of them as a person, and that actually feeds into my next question for you, Christy. Seeing the shift in women's sports this year, which we touched on, I know our other member Vanessa touched on it with Allison Barber yesterday. It's been such an incredible shift, and you know, investors are getting excited, brands are getting excited, they're getting involved. But Christy and I have spoke about, you know, she now is part of an investment firm. So, like, Christy, what do you think are some ways that investors can see the return on their dollar in women's sports? And how do we keep that investment going and have it not just be like a fad of the year? We need to keep driving. Like, for example, if Caitlin wasn't playing, hopefully that doesn't happen, but if she wasn't, like, how do we keep that team going? How do we keep the dollars coming in so that there is a long-term return for investors?
I feel like everyone here has probably heard something on women's sport this week already, yeah? Who's hyped about it? Grows in this? Yes, awesome, me too. I played 3 sports. All of them were gender equal, actually, but equally crap in that we didn't pay either gender. And now, you know, I'm co-founding a company and we are buying soccer teams, football teams around the world, both men's and women's. So every team we buy, we do men's and women's. But my background is venture capital and investing. And when I look at women's sport, I am so pumped about the growth. Like, we have seen valuations just like skyrocket. You could buy an expansion license in the NWSL for $2 million in 2020. It's $53 million today. You have attendance. You know, we had 92,000 people show up for a volleyball game. The biggest stadium in your country is 107,000. Like, we're there, right? Your viewership over the last decade, women's sport has gone from 4% of all sports media to over 15%. And then I think if you look at the revenue, women's sport will be over $1 billion this year for the first time ever. But that is all top line, right? And so none of the standalone WNBA teams are profitable yet. Not a single NWSL team is profitable yet. You had the Women's Hockey League launch this year. They sold out every game, but it's not profitable yet, right? And so if you're an investor looking at this space, you have to either have deep pockets, knowing that you're going to fund this for multiple years until you get to profitability. You have to be willing to be diluted because other investors are going to have to come in and fund this for multiple years. Or, you know, our approach has been we are going to do men's and women's together and share the cost base between the genders, because women's sport will be incredibly valuable in the future, but today it's tough to make it standalone profitably. And the single reason for that is, you know, Zora's in the media space, is the TV deal, right? Men's teams have hundreds of millions of dollars every year that they don't have to do anything for. It is just top line profit into that team. And so the growth is there, the profitability is catching up. So from an investor perspective.
Can I add? So I just have a question, because how long did it take for some of the men's leagues to get to a space where they were profitable, right? And the women, you know, in terms of some of these leagues, they're so young.
Yeah, and we're going to wait like what, 1, maybe 2 more media negotiation cycles, and we do those every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So within the next decade, we will be there, which is way faster than the men's sport group.
Yeah, and we need people like you not to just stay for fads or for one athlete, but to really get in and you know, enjoy it.
Be
right? Yeah,
entertained.
the fans really matter.
Well, but this is where we say the convergence of entertainment and sport. So really looking at how they can work in tandem and with intentionality to tell some of those stories, because until people realize that, you know, people weren't watching women's sports because they couldn't find women's sports, but they were watching women's sports. They just weren't watching on main ones. They were actually finding ways to consume that content. It just wasn't mainstream, so it was getting missed in measurements, right? Then once we have the right measurements to calibrate, we can do that. The other thing that we can do is be really smart as consumers and put our dollars or shift our dollars to brands with intention. Okay, you don't have to spend more, but if I see that we have 2 brands and you know what, one only has cleats for the boys and one is putting both money to the girls and the boys, guess what? 87% of the disposable purchasing power lies with women. So ladies, let's put our purses where our intentions are, because money talks. Okay, and let the BS walk. Like if they're not doing it, if they are not walking the walk and they're just talking the talk, then walk yourself down the aisle and pick a brand that's doing something meaningful. Period.
Love it. Well, you fed me into my next question very well, so thank you very much. Zora, this is back to you. So talking about the brands, like obviously the brands have huge impact with our athletes, male or female, you know, big brand deals, finding ways to market them well, all that kinds of stuff. So what are some brands that you love besides Converse, which I know you love? Zora wears Converse on almost every live thing she does.
Yeah.
What are some brands that you have really seen make an impact in sports in the past year or so? And what are some things you think they could do more to really embrace the entertainment side of the sport?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm not like, you know, calling one out or leaving one out, but one that stood out to me while I was in Paris was Athleta, and the power of she, and how many female athletes they empower, and not just for sponsorship, but they give them a platform. You know, you see Simone, you see Katie Ledecky, so that's a brand that stands out for me. You know, you talk about Converse, my obsession with it. Well, I love Converse because I feel like I can just be whoever I am. You know, in those shoes, you can just be you, because they allow for so much versatility and authenticity. So those are the 2 that kind of stand out to me. I would love to know what the panel thinks of any brands that they think are really moving the needle.
Is there one that stood out for male sports this year too?
Say that one more time.
Is there one that you've seen that has stood out for male sports this year?
I mean, to be honest, I feel like the men, no, I mean, no shade, but they're everywhere, and brands are spending dollars. We need more brands, and we should. And Lydia, I know you're in this space, and all of us, right? Like, we shouldn't have to beg to show our worth and all the things that are on our resumes for these brands to understand how powerful it is to have partnerships with various people.
And the thing is, when one brand does do it, like Elf did at the Indy, which we were lucky enough to go to, it was incredible, and it made this huge impact, and everybody started buying the product. I know I did.
And look, and Elf didn't just do it in Indy. Elf is elfing up the market, right? I love their elfing things up, right?
Shout out to Brooke.
Shout out to that. And they're doing it in multiple places. Like, they're working on launching sports talk radio, right? So we can start to increase that coverage. So they're really putting their dollars in places where they can move the needle. And I talked to their CMO. We had a long thought, and she goes, if it doesn't matter, we're not doing it. We are going to put our brand dollars to move the needle. And I love places that are, I think we're having a shift, is what I would say, from influencers to influencing through brand dollars and putting that behind people who are intentional, right? Instead of just saying this influencer's easy and she can flash it on TikTok, why not tell a story that people will want to talk about? Like, that is going to move it more, like they did with, here in Indy with the driver. And, I mean, you have a pink car and people are talking about it. And let me tell you, there was a line around the block where people said, oh, they won't want glow ups. Yes, they will. They wanted the glow up and they had to show up. I will also say Oakley has been a company that really impressed me. They've made a significant investment. They've been in football for a while, but they see the emerging market in flag football, and they've been very intentional about grassroots growth for both, like, youth, male and female, and they're great about seeding products. People ask me why I wear Oakleys all the time. I'm like, because they give them to Gridiron Girls. And because I have the opportunity to do a free camp and give some of the girls that would never have had these glasses, or some of the coaches who are volunteering their time, they get to have a little bit of extra swag because Oakley said, you know what, you're worth it. It's not just, and they see that and they even did it with the AFL, right? So, like, the AFL, they're not making millions. But I got to go to every single one of the guys who played in the championship game, and I got to look at them and say, hey, you know what? I know you grind. I know it's not easy, and Oakley knows it too, and we know look good, play good is a real thing. So here are your own glasses to step to the championship game in style.
And I think, like, that caring about the community, like, brands underestimate how important that is to us. When we see them caring about the community and giving to these young girls that would maybe not be able to purchase them, like, that matters. That's impact right there. And it's great marketing.
Yeah, and they're putting girls in the campaigns next to the boys. So then you're creating aspirational content that gives that girl who might have been on the fence and might have thought, football's not for me. She looks at another girl and she says, you know what, I want to be her. And once she sees that, and once she has that kernel of a dream, you can't take it from her, right? That dream is the permission to then have the drive to do the work, to become one of the best. And we used to say it was pro football players because we couldn't afford the professional. That was out of the budget.
And that's entertainment in the end, right? It comes back around and is entertainment. And Jen, let me follow up with you, because you have a incredible event called A Day in the Life,
Yes.
which we were lucky enough to partner with her for this year at the Super Bowl, where she coaches women how to play football. Your everyday woman, anyone can go in and get a ticket and play. And it was elevated through music, through speakers, through brands. Jen, can you touch on that a little bit and, like, say what made you want to do that, and why was it so important to bring that community together to create a day of sport and entertainment?
Yeah, so I lovingly say it's the ultimate female fan fantasy experience for women by women. We bring you onto the field and into the game because I had so many women who would say, I think I would like football, but every time I go to ask my husband, boyfriend, dad, they say, shh, honey, I'm watching the game. And I would say, well, first of all, here's the first thing. Most guys love to flex their football IQ. So if they said that to you, it meant it was a good question and he didn't have the answer. Period. End of discussion. And I can coach anyone in football. So why not women? And again, this is about proximity creates fandom. You don't create fandom by giving women the Heisman, okay? Women are the growth market in a lot of places, but specifically in football. It's been called the final frontier for women in sports. Women love strategy, period. So it's full contact chess, and I can teach you. And every woman should learn how to tackle. It's a life imperative.
I now know how to
We should
tackle.
all
Thank
know.
you, Jen.
Right, exactly.
Same.
But doing it and creating that environment where you feel confident, capable, and comfortable, you've gotten to learn in a non-threatening environment, and then you can translate that through the entertainment. You had a great day. We took away the this is a scary place, and we made it a place that could be just for you. And now you can step into those conversations in the boardroom, right? Like, you're not out of the conversation. They used to talk about this about golf all the time. Well, I think football is the same way. I think any place that we as women can't enter a conversation, that's where business is being done. It's being done in the boxes. You don't want to go in the box seats and waste your time kind of feeling frightful. You want to say, you know what? That quarterback was able to escape the pocket because that guy came at too sharp of an angle. Like, doesn't he know he should keep our outside contained? Duh. Or my favorite one is, I'm going to give you, y'all want a little brief football IQ? Okay, zone versus man coverage. Man coverage is marriage coverage. That is my husband. Wherever he goes, I go. He goes up and kisses mama on the cheek, I'm kissing her on the other cheek. Zone coverage is a little bit different. Zone coverage, I am single. Somebody rolls through looking kind of talented. He's here, he's looking kind of good. He keeps going, he wasn't that fine. Anyway, I'm looking for work. Marriage versus dating. Now we made it funny. Now you see it. They're pressed up like this up on the line. Guess what? Probably marriage coverage. They're off. It's some kind of zone. We can yet figure that out. But then you have something to talk about. And any of these places that you now feel welcome to enter, you can build. And that's where that convergence is, right? These places and spaces where we can make sports a form of entertainment, that's where you create new places of entry for fandom, number one, but for revenue, number two. One of the biggest markets that they've said in women's sports is unrealized. There's about $6 billion of unrealized money on merchandise. Guess what? Women are buying the gear. Why not create things around that are entertaining and fun, and then create a culture that's inclusive? And we can do that in any sport, not just football. That just happens to be mine.
Well, thank you for the quick football tutorial
So
there.
When I ask my next question after a game, I'm gonna ask Coach. Was it marriage or were you single and dating?
Yeah.
Yes, everybody use that. Christy, question for you. You're a 3-time professional athlete, which is incredible. I don't even know if you're human. In your time competing and now buying up these soccer teams, what do you think are some good marketing strategies that are being used, mixing entertainment with sport, that are really working today?
I think we heard 2 truths today, right? The first being that we follow the athlete more than the team.
Yep.
And the second being we care about stories more than the sport itself, right? If you don't care who wins, the sport is kind of boring. And if you don't know the story of the athlete, you don't really care about them on the field. And so those 2 truths sort of unlock different things for us in terms of marketing and branding and entertainment. A couple that I'm excited about, one is content, right? You used to not have a platform. If you weren't on TV, you weren't in the public eye. And now we control the platforms. And so you can have a blog, a Patreon, a YouTube, a TikTok. You can have a podcast, you can interview people, and you can do whatever you like and control your own content. And that is how we get to know the story behind the athlete and start to care about you on the field. The second is really advocacy. We did speak about this a little bit. And, if you stand up for something, people will stand for you. And so what do you care about as an athlete? What do you care about as a team or team owner? Is it equality? Is it mental health? Is it the kids from your background and your neighborhood that are disadvantaged? Stand up for something, and you are attracting the sponsors and the fans that also care about that issue to your sport and to become a fan of yours. And then I think the exciting one for me is athletes are getting to build their own businesses, right? Jen has these fabulous shoes. You know, she could start a shoe line. She doesn't need to have like Nike come like knocking on her door to like, you know, design a shoe, get it produced in Asia, drop ship it to your door. Like, she doesn't have to make it herself. Naomi Osaka's out there. She's got her own agency. Maria Fay, one of the top beach volleyball players from Australia, she's got her own like athleisure line. And so as an athlete, I can start to build a business off the platform I have and converge, you know, music, entertainment, fashion, lifestyle, design, all into my sport as well.
And I think that's really important in the content too, like bringing in the music, and that's something we try and do at Osprey is like collaborate everyone and get the members to build businesses, because like Christy said, it's so achievable now and it's so doable and important as well. And just to follow up on that, the last question, for the college athletes, I don't know if all three of you ladies might have something to say, but we just launched our college circle in Osprey, and you know, talking to the college students, it's a really challenging world for them right now, being with NIL and all the content they have to create. It's a full-time job. I don't know how many of you guys do social media, but it is a full-time job. So they're playing their sport, they're studying, they're also doing their full branding of themselves. So what do you think are some ways that we can like help support that whilst they try to create their brand of entertainment and sport?
I mean, I have 3,000 Instagram followers. So you're asking the perfect person for this one.
Hey, 3,000 is a lot.
I'm not even a micro influencer, I am a nano influencer. No, I mean, you always had to create your brand. You know, you had to think about your pathway going pro, you had to think about your career post-college, and does your status as an athlete help you land a role if you're not going pro? And so you always had to do it, you just never got paid for it. And now you get paid for it, so at least I can hire someone that's a little better at Instagram than I am. And at least I can, you know, then get paid to work with a sponsor and a brand and things like that. So I'm psyched for NIL. You know, we're going to see interesting tension points play out between, like, you know, are you still getting your education? Is that still the priority versus being an athlete? And, you know, from an international perspective, the US is the only country that has college sport. Like, we don't have that in Australia. Everybody stays in the club system. Everybody builds their brand outside of college. And so, you know, you're in a very privileged position to have college sport here in terms of creating pathways for athletes and a platform for athletes. It's very different elsewhere in the world. And so NIL has maybe brought the two a little closer together.
I'm first going to say I'm refreshed that we've gotten away from that shut up and dribble mentality, right? And that we realize people doing influential things have the right to be influencers beyond just what the field of play is, right? And how do you want to show up in the world? And I think as NIL rolls out and, you know, the thought process that not only should we pay college athletes, but we should be paying female athletes, then you get to, again, find your space in the world in a way that you want to stretch your wings. Not everybody's going to be a social media person. But you know what? I didn't get my brand deals because they said I want to work with the first female coach in the NFL. So I was the first woman signed to a major athletic brand in football. I had a great deal with Adidas, and they worked with me because they saw me with kids. They hadn't yet entered the flag football space, but I ran a program where we actually gave the corporate executives a chance to get out on the field and see their products in use and influencing the community. And I had the CEO of Adidas there, and he was like, we love her. What are we going to do? And it took a while for them to really come into that footing. And you mentioned Snoop Dogg earlier. It was actually Snoop that said, what are you guys doing? Because he was signed to Adidas at the time, and he was like, Coach Jen's amazing. She works with my kids. I worked with his special needs kids. And he was like, do it. And then all of a sudden they were like, well, Snoop likes her. Well, we gotta like her, right? But
Follow Snoop.
It takes really being authentic in a space to show up in a place where people with brand dollars find a place to put those dollars for impact. And I think that's what colleges are really starting to see. Like, I've had colleges bring in gridiron girls to give their guys the chance. It's really cute when you see the big giant guys teaching football to little kids, right? Like, and I think as we see it evolve, what's going to be important is that we start with the athlete as a person, we start with their passions, and then help them create a playbook for life that will set them up for authentic success, right? And kind of really putting those into play. And like you said, can I hire somebody to do Instagram? Great. You know, these are things that are available to you that were, you know, not available to a pro football player who got paid $1 a game. Like, we had to be scrappy. Like, people say, well, how did you get so creative? I had to be, right? And I think that we're just gonna see that creativity with more funding earlier and people actively looking for ways that we can keep these athletes in the games that they love with the support mechanisms built around. And to your credit, Lydia, that's part of what you've been doing. And when you said, like, this is what I'm doing with Osprey, I don't even think you finished. I was like, yes. And you were like, wait, I haven't even finished yet. And I was like, I'll do anything that I can, because we need to find ways to join forces and merge our superpowers, right? Like, how can we create communities that are lifting each other up through our own special sauce?
Thank you.
You got it.
Dora, did you want to add anything?
No, I echo everything that Jen and Christy and you, Lydia. The one thing with social media that we have to remember is it still takes time to reach your dreams, because so many times you can see things happen in a microwave for other people.
Yep.
And you have to remember that there's still, you know, levels to it, and it still takes time.
That's a really
for some
good
people,
point.
for some people, and that doesn't mean that you're doing it the wrong way. It doesn't mean that you're slow. I mean, there's so many stories out there that people that have peaked later in life.
So true.
And so, yeah, I think we should enjoy the journey too and the process. And I'm sitting here listening and learning, right? And we should never be in a space where we can't just learn and continue to try to build on what we know.
I love that.
I'm just listening.
I love that. We're going to open it up for questions and then end with a couple rapid fire. Does anybody have a question for anyone on this panel?
Let's go. What do you got?
Come on, I know some of you do. Yes, Vicky. Can we get a mic up here, please?
I just see like brands are doing the traditional, hey, we've done this for men, which is replicate the same business model for women. But is there other places where they can be more creative with, you know, the women being, say, at a different aspect where you can be, like, have a different product. You don't have to be exactly the carbon copy of like the NBA or the NFL. Do you see that convergence between like brands and
The NBA, a WNBA tunnel.
Did you repeat her question, Jen?
Yeah, so where can brands interject in a way that's not, you know, shrink it and pink it, put the male version on the girls, right? Like, and that's what we're talking about. There's so much excitement around looking at women and thinking, yes, we have different products, right? I can think of a million, some I don't want to say on stage, right? We have different life challenges, but a really great illustration of where fashion brands have been able to interject and be seen is the emergence of the WNBA tunnel, right? Like, I always have thought of like the walk up to football games. That was always a fashion thing for the NFL. But now we're seeing brands having an opportunity to dress women with different body types on like the WNBA. And we're gonna see that in more areas, right? I think that's an easy one. I think also, you know, I mean, the lipstick that Alona Mayer wears is a great example. Elf Cosmetics coming in and saying, you know what? We can be beautiful and badass, right? Like, we as women can embrace that, right? I don't have to look like a dude because I'm doing dude things. I actually have a license. I have my own nail polish. That was one I did. It was, I have a licensing deal with Orly. One of my trademarks is kick glass, because duh, right? That's what we women do. It's kick ass for women, and I'm cussing but not cussing, right? And it is a shatter glass top coat you can put over any color. That is something that you're likely not gonna see on an NFL athlete, right? But it was something uniquely powerful that a female coach could bring into an equation, right? Like, let's stop, again, with the shrink it and pink it mentality, and let's own, love, and celebrate women in all of their badassness, and let's find ways that products can be proactive in investing their dollars and not just putting them into an influencer's Instagram, but being influential in our investments.
Thank you.
I want to add another space too is hair
Yeah.
for women and how we compete and can still have different styles and show off who we are. Our hair, particularly for women of color, is such a way for us to express ourselves, and so
Yeah.
I think that's
Look at Shikari. Oh.
Also love your hair today.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
love your hair too. And this would be a
yeah,
great helmet
Shikari.
style because you have to wear braids.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a ponytail bump in the back of the helmet. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions? Yes, sorry, at the back there.
Hi. Okay, so never really been big into sports, but you're absolutely right. I am being left out of those box seats, out of those conversations with sports because I really didn't grow up watching sports. Recently picked up golf because I was being uninvited to the scrambles or not invited. So, as a woman that's trying to get into sports with dumb it down, ground zero level, what are some resources that somebody can woman-splain me sports 101.
Well, you better be at a day in the life in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, I'm very curious about that. I want to know more information for sure.
Yeah, no, they're fun, and I think that is a place where we've yet to create enough resources, right? But that's one where I know I consciously have wanted to move with intention because I heard it so much,
Yeah.
and so. Yeah, I mean,
We in Houston, I run a bunch of women's golf clinics where it's like a fun women's thing where we have a drink and we learn golf in a group, but a lot of more of that, like a day in the life, and like that needs to come out so that it's more accessible.
I think storytelling can help connect you as well. I mean, Jen mentioned like receiver or quarterback. You have Sprint out now. I'm just giving all these plugs to Netflix. There's a
I hope
basketball
they'll
one.
catch our
Right,
texts
Simone
later.
Biles. But when you can connect with what they're going through as humans, and then throughout the process, they kind of do surface level on their sport, and that is a way to get to understand the sport a little bit better.
But if
Great
you want to
question.
get good at sport, like you want to play, right, as well, and be good at it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done 3 sports, right? I started very late in beach volleyball. I was 23, which is ancient for an athlete. And I was awful because I'd never played a ball sport. Like I would jump in the air and swing my arm and just like completely miss the ball, and people were like, what the hell? Like, you're an athlete. You look so uncoordinated. Like, how do you get good fast? You get a coach, you go and train with people better than you, and you practice a lot. And like, I would say coaching is the most underrated of those. We're all like, I can teach myself, I can learn off YouTube.
No.
Go get a coach.
Oh, get a
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other? Sorry, did you have a question?
Oh, hey, what's up? Hello. Hi. That was really, really great. I'm feeling electric because of this. My name's Olivia. I'm the in-arena announcer for the Indiana Fever, and I know we met.
I love you, Olivia.
We're going to the game tonight.
Yeah, I'm surprisingly not going to be there.
Oh.
Other reasons. It's okay. My question is, so Christine, you mentioned the importance of a coach. All of you, I'm sure, though, have had good mentors as well. Right, because like coaches coach you for the game and maybe a little bit in life, but unless you're on the field or the court, you don't necessarily have a coach anymore. Or I know sometimes it's very expensive to sew into something like that. So if you could just share any insights into what value you provided back to your mentor or coach in such a way that they then poured into you.
Yeah, I can answer this actually. So, I mean, I've done a lot of startups and always needed mentors along the way to learn different parts of the business. I found that a lot of my mentors obviously were a little older than me because of the experience, and they gained from me the knowledge and energy of tech that I had, whereas they were giving me support like on the financial side. So I think it's finding people that you feel you could fill in a gap for them as well as them filling in a gap for you is important, because otherwise it feels like it's just take, and then they would feel like that as well. I think also you can just find mentors and friends as well. Like I have some friends that have taught me some incredible things, and always learning from people. Just make sure you always take in everything that people provide for you, because knowledge is power.
Do you like when people ask you for help? Oh, we got no sound.
Sound on the mic, please.
It's flattering in some ways, right?
Yeah. Unless it's too arduous or it's going to make me
Yeah.
uncomfortable to like
Sure.
make those intros.
But
Yeah.
like someone comes with a very respectful, a very specific ask that is tailored to your expertise, and you're in a position to help. Like it's flattering, right? And it's kind of a little ego kick, maybe. And people like to help. I like to help other people. So why do we feel bad about asking other people for help in a respectful way? I think we hesitate to ask sometimes. We don't want to be a burden. And, it goes around, it comes around, and respectful, beautiful, grateful asks. Yeah.
I love that answer. That was such a good answer. Thank you. Yep, question? I thought you were going to steal the mic from him for a minute and take the question. I was like, ooh.
Do it, yes, do it. Rock the mic.
Lydia, thank you. You were right. I really think this was like the best panel. And
Oh,
all four of you,
Hey! Score.
Thank you.
I'm energized.
Not competitive
I live in
at all.
Indianapolis. This is very intentionally a sports city. And I'm just kind of curious, you've all been all over the world in your respective endeavors in sports and everything else. And are there any communities that you've seen that have, in surprising or unique ways, really leveraged their sports presence to serve the community or create something really neat or special in those communities or cities?
Ooh, I have one actually that no one would really guess, but I grew up in Asia and I used to go to Bali all the time. And there's a big surf community there, obviously, because there's amazing waves. But the Balinese people took that surf community, and whilst it's not like a pro, heavy professional sports community, they've taken the surf community and created their entire island around it. So they've, brought in sports brands and businesses and everything, and they've really boosted their economy through that sport. And that was something really cool because the people there are very relaxed and lovely, wonderful people. But it's all very surf culture, and that sport gave them a big boost in their economy, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'll maybe talk about one of the projects we're going to do with FC32, and that's work with the largest private school network in Africa. Now, a private school in Africa is about $2 a day. And they have 940 schools, 250,000 kids, and one of the problems they have is attendance. You want your kid to stay home and help with the family business, get water, all of these different problems. And one of the biggest drivers of attendance is does that school have a soccer program? And so can we roll out soccer programs to those 940 schools, 250,000 kids, boys and girls, as a way to center the community and drive education as a pathway, for those African communities.
That's cool. Is that the most popular sport for the kids there? That's what they all want to play?
100%. Sorry, the other kind of football.
It is. I mean, I've seen football be a real driver in different communities from all levels, right? I think that's one of the ones, but I'll give it a different perspective. What Snoop Dogg has done with the SYFL in the community is one of the best community-based programs I've ever seen, right? And they do it. They have a special needs program, which is Snoop Special Stars. They've launched Flag, and they have their tackle program, and their tackle program really is a community-based program. And I think it's such a beautiful thing because you tie in that celebrity, right, who really puts his passion and his pockets where it lives, and it is such an enterprise. They really are. It's one of the coolest communities I've been a part of, and it was a part of his life that for a long time nobody really knew. But I mean, when I say he's out there coaching, he's coaching. This isn't just a put your face on something and maybe smile for the camera and leave. He coached for years and finally went over to just running the league because people were getting jealous if they weren't on Snoop's team. But he would also take and travel teams to Super Bowl. And he did the Snooper Bowl. And he's now getting a bowl game.
Of course
So,
he did.
yeah, and he's now getting a bowl game where he's bringing that stuff together. But I think it's such a unique community effort that was celebrity driven and brings in all of those resources. And that model could be replicated in communities, because where I grew up, it wasn't pro football. It's 3 hours to the next team in Vero Beach, Florida. It also wasn't college football. You had to go a while. It was high school football. So realizing that sports are cultural unifiers, I've had the opportunity to work with the State Department through sports diplomacy programs, and what you see is that's a place where we can champion human spirit. And whatever the sport is, it becomes a universal language that we can appreciate what our bodies are capable of, not what we're being judged by, but what through hard work and dedication does. And then you build the community based around whether it be surfing, whether it be soccer, or whether it be football, to be something where you have that common bond. And there are so many life lessons that you can take with intentionality through the sport to help influence culture.
Yeah, I'll add. Before I started with NBC, I was with the Milwaukee Bucks for 4 seasons as the team's reporter and secondary play-by-play. And that team saw it as a responsibility to not just give back to the community, but to be a part of the community. So many times, professional sports teams can be so distant from what's actually going on. And where the Milwaukee Bucks play the arena, it's called Fiserv Forum, and you can vote inside Fiserv Forum. You can, get health care checks inside Fiserv Forum. You can get married inside Fiserv Forum. You can rent it out for your wedding. They have an entire plaza called the Deer District where you can have yoga classes. They rent it out for festivals. One of the most fulfilling assignments that I ever had there was the entire team, I'm talking the MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, went inside a prison. You had the head coach at the time, Mike Budenholzer, you had the GM, and imagine us all sitting in a circle and it goes, someone that's incarcerated, an NBA player, and they were all in a circle talking about their stories. And I was right behind them just listening, and everyone was in tears. And then right after that, they brought the mascot in, and they had the NBA players as coaches, and then the coaches of the teams were playing with people that were incarcerated, and there was popcorn. And so I bring that story up because, the Milwaukee Bucks have committed themselves to being a part of that community. Some people that are from that area say that Milwaukee is one of the most segregated cities in this country. But if you go to a Milwaukee Bucks game, you would never know it because everyone from all backgrounds, all different races come together to cheer on a team. So yeah, maybe basketball starts that, but the impact is so much bigger. So if you ever, sports, if you're ever in the industry, just know it's so much bigger than the game.
Wow, that's really good. I didn't know all that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Okay, we're really out of time, so I'm going to end this with rapid fire. So actually, I'm going to stand up. Let's stand up for this.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay, it's going to be a quick answer, okay?
Quick.
So if any of you guys are fans of these ladies, then you'll get to know them a little better. Okay, ready? Favorite sport to play?
Basketball, easy.
Football.
Beach volleyball.
Favorite food?
Wings.
Chocolate-covered strawberries.
Ooh.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Favorite sports team?
Ooh, New York Liberty.
Oh,
That
that
was-
was Timons.
The Australian Matildas.
Fever! Okay, favorite sport to watch?
Basketball.
Football.
All the extreme sports.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Favorite type of music?
R&B.
Hip-hop.
Pop.
Oh, pop. I wouldn't have guessed that with you. I love that.
Yeah.
Favorite moment in sports this year?
Simone Biles getting back to the Olympics.
Woo! Yes.
Team USA getting 3rd in rugby.
Woo! Love that.
Bronze.
Within the last 12 months, the World Cup in Australia for football, they sold the TV rights for $5 million. It was the most
they
viewed
did.
TV event in Australian history.
Oh, amazing.
And then the Australian Matildas made it all the way to the bronze medal match.
Love it. Favorite color?
Favorite car?
Color.
Oh, color, purple.
Pink.
Gold.
Ooh.
Winners here.
And last but not least, your favorite moment of rally.
This.
Us.
And your favorite moment of rally.
Woo!
And of course, our lovely Megan with A-Rod yesterday, and
Yes.
Vanessa with Allison, and Jenna, and all the people that were in panels. So thank you, everyone, so much. I know there's a closing ceremony about to start on the main stage, I believe. So yeah, thank you for
Yay.
coming.